Last week, President Obama issued an executive order creating a bipartisan panel to rein in America's out-of-control debt, which is sort of like an arsonist joining the fire department. During his announcement, the president said, "The politics of dealing with chronic deficits is fraught with hard choices, and therefore it's treacherous to office holders here in Washington." Translation? Since the slobs you elected to Congress can't solve this problem, we're going to pick slobs of our own. Well, that's comforting, because if anybody's equipped to pick a team of fiscal hawks, it's the guy who spent $750 billion in order to get double-digit unemployment. The president claims that he had to move through an executive order because obstructionists in Congress wouldn't create the panel themselves. That's probably true. Liberals hate to cut spending, and conservatives hate to raise taxes. But the only thing they hate more is for someone else to do it for them. A few moderates were genuinely upset over the failure, though. Senator Evan Bayh was so disappointed that he decided to retire from the Senate. This shocked everyone in Washington, as pundits and politicians were all heard asking the same question. Evan who? In reality, many of us can see around the administration's facade. With a Democratic White House appointing a heavily Democratic team to examine the nation's fiscal priorities, no one is expecting much of a push to shrink government. When the commission's work is done, we'll probably still be paying for farmers not to grow crops, making work in a public sector union the best deal this side of an NBA contract, and throwing taxpayer money at everything from bullet trains to wind farms. Taking all that into account, maybe there's a good reason for us to leave the liberal and conservative factions in Congress to fight this out on their own. After all, not all deficit solutions are created equal. Cutting spending means leaving more money in the private sector, where it can create the most jobs, the most new innovations, and think this through, liberals, the most revenue for the government thanks to increased economic growth. Hiking taxes means just the opposite. But it's not just good economics that makes cutting spending the right choice. There's a moral case to be made as well. Since when are politicians the only members of society who don't have to live within their means during times of economic hardship? And how can any member of Congress defend tax hikes unless they can honestly say that there's no area where government can operate more efficiently? Not to mention all the areas where government shouldn't be involved at all. President Obama is right about the need to make tough choices. But appointing a panel of has-been politicians to give him cover for tax hikes doesn't exactly seem like a profile in courage. Instead, let's take the issue to the American people in this election year. We're happy to hear their thoughts on whether the real problem is that government spends too much or that they are not taxed enough. Are you, Mr. President? That's this week's Freedom Minute.